All right, guys, we are going live. Welcome, closers. It is Thursday, one of my favorite days of the week, and today we're going to be talking about some really inspiring content. This is actually some of the highlights of the talk that I gave in Maui about 2 weeks ago at the NARPA National Convention. So we basically are distilling down that 90-minute talk, and we're going to be looking at some of the key highlights of things that we discussed there. Some of this content will be familiar. A good portion of it is new, but I'm really excited to deliver it to you guys today. I do want to go over some housekeeping notes before we jump into how to build a repeatable, sustainable, and explosive growth machine. Housekeeping notes here. Keep in mind, guys, you can always ask questions as we are doing this. There's live chat in the bottom right. Can anybody say hi? Let's just say hi and where you're from in the live chat right now. If you don't mind, just type that in. I want to make sure it's working. Make sure you guys can hear me. Any responses? Okay, hello from Florida, from Anna. Anna, thank you. Richard, my man, out of Orlando. All right, good to see you guys. So keep in mind that you can ask questions down below at the very bottom. Hello, Ralph from Charleston, South Carolina. Hey Goran, Nathan, you guys are faithful. I appreciate you guys showing up and answering the call to respond here. If you have questions, rather than asking them in the chat section, ask them down below at the bottom of the page. That's going to be easier for both of us. So there's a questions section down below. Drop in questions and we'll kind of answer those as we go and at the end. Sandy, Andy, hey guys. All right, we are jumping in. And the only other thing that I want to mention is that on Friday, which is tomorrow, we're going to be starting a 3-part video series on sales fundamentals for property managers. These are videos that are going to start hitting your inbox. I'm really excited about that content. That will start tomorrow. It's a 3-part series. And additionally, we are really releasing something really big 2 weeks from now that I'm super excited about. I can't talk about any more than that, but we do kind of have something that we're launching in a couple weeks. And today we have some fantastic content, and as usual, we are talking all about growth. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my deck, and we're going to go back and forth. I'm going to show you guys some of the slides that I'm working off of. I'm also going to just read some of them on my own and just monologue on them. All of the slides that come from the original presentation that I'm about to give the highlights on, you will get as a result of the fact that you signed up. It is a monster 240 slide deck, and we will be sending that out after the fact to everybody. But today we are talking about how to build a sustainable and explosive growth machine. And guys, the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that growth is optional. This is a phrase that was used by one of my friends just in reference to starting something new and talking about all of the hopes and dreams and aspirations, just being anchored and remembering that growing your business is optional, and particularly for property managers where you already have contracts under management. When you walk into a new month, you're walking with a healthy baseline. This is not traditional sales where every month you're back at zero. So it's really easy to get comfortable and to have your growth aspirations be not a whole lot more than just that, an aspiration. If it doesn't happen, you're not crying. There's no real love lost. It's kind of disappointment as opposed to it being a real crisis for you to fail to hit growth targets. And with that in mind, I want to talk to you about some specific reasons why a lot of businesses fail to grow. The first reason that so many companies fail to hit their growth targets is lack of drive. This basically just means that your needs are being met, your bills are paid, and growth is appealing but not essential. If it doesn't happen, again, there's no crisis, there's no real sense of urgency. This is probably the broadest reason that affects the largest number of our clients. And how do you solve that? That's a tough one. I don't have a webinar or a blog post to communicate for you how to change your goals or your ambitions or your desires. That's very much a why and an internal thing. But nonetheless, that is the broadest reason that most companies fail to grow. It's just fundamentally a lack of urgency. The second reason is that many business owners, including myself, are drawn towards being technicians, meaning you want to be in the weeds. You want to be fine-tuning things. You are a shoe cobbler. You are a grocery store clerk, probably not a great example. You are a property manager. Whatever it is, you're really focused on the good or service, the delivery, the quality component, and there's kind of this misguided belief that if you build it, they will come. If you have a great product, your business will grow. Well, what we know is that's an absolute lie. The reality is the best marketed product will grow the fastest in any given market. Having quality is a necessary component, but it's not enough. And we all have this tendency to get pulled into that technician mindset. For me personally, I lean towards marketing. So I wear the CEO hat, but marketing is the thing that I'm most drawn towards. And even deeper than that, design is the thing that I personally just really enjoy. If you put me in front of a design editor creating some slick sales marketing collateral, I can really kind of get into that and spend more time than I should. But I've got to check myself because I can realize that while that may be enjoyable and useful, it's not enough to drive my business forward. So the second reason companies fail to grow is that owners would rather be technicians than true owner operators actually growing and expanding the organization. The third reason companies fail to grow is searching for a silver bullet. This means you're looking for one secret tactic that if you can just solve it and get it working, it's going to blow up your business. But there's not as much excitement about cobbling together a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and a little bit of this together for a breadbasket of wins that add up to something special, because that requires endurance, discipline, and the sad reality is there is no silver bullet. And the faster you try and grow, the more quickly you will realize that you do not have the luxury of poo-pooing a given lead source. You know, I'm just going to use APM, all property management. It's kind of the industry whipping boy. People love to hate on APM. Personally, I'm a fan because I think it's a great testing and proving ground for the quality of the sales process. But people love to say, well, you know, I tried APM, but it didn't work. Or I'm going to do APM plus this or plus that. The reality is, you have to add things together, particularly given the maturity of lead generation within this industry. It needs to be this and as opposed to this or when you think about your overall growth strategy. So the net just summary here is focusing on a single silver bullet instead of cobbling a bunch of things together, a bunch of wins. Fourth reason companies fail to grow is failure to focus. This just means taking a shotgun approach to sales marketing. So you're trying a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but there's no clear focus and there's no willingness to really lock on and go deep. And so what happens is you end up resulting in getting really, really close to having success, really close to getting traction, and you're doing 80% of the work, but you're getting 20% of the benefit. That is a business tragedy, in my opinion, and that is not where you want to be. You're better off not starting than failing to go pretty far down the road, but not committing all the way. Fifth reason companies fail to grow is not tracking key metrics. You guys know this one, you know metrics, you know conversion rate. It's important, of course, but I want to focus on two metrics that if you could solve these two numbers in your business, you would be light years ahead of your competition. The first is CAC, customer acquisition cost. And the second is customer lifetime value. Customer acquisition cost is effectively what you are paying every time that you get a new customer. As a byproduct of either your effort, because you're doing realtor referrals, you're beating the street, you're hoofing it, and there's a value associated with your time, or because you're paying $100 a lead from APM or whatever it may be, or with AdWords. What are you paying per contract? That is CAC, customer acquisition cost. The other figure is LTV, customer lifetime value. So when you think about the overall revenue that you will generate from a new property management contract, minus what you pay to acquire that contract, minus the cost to service that contract, that is the lifetime value of that customer relationship. And as soon as you put a number on it, two things are going to happen. You're going to get a lot of clarity about what customers are worth, but more importantly, you're also going to understand what you can afford to spend. Because if your customer acquisition cost is half or 100% or 200% of what a customer is worth, obviously that's broken and you can't scale that. Ideally, you're looking for a payback time frame of around 12 months. If what you pay to acquire a new customer, you can get paid back in 12 months, then you're well within the zone of a safe ROI. A lot of customers that we deal with in terms of what they actually verbally would state, they're willing to spend very, very little. What they do end up spending in their customer acquisition cost is much, much higher. Why the disparity? Because they're not tracking their metrics. But if your time to pay back is within 12 months, and in general, from like a VC type perspective, if you're spending less than 30% of your lifetime value to acquire a new customer, you're within the zone of what you can do to actually try and scale the organization. But you have to be tracking those numbers to be able to leverage that knowledge and to not be operating off of gut. Because if you don't have these metrics, what are you going to be operating off of? You're going to be operating from a scarcity mindset, which basically means I want to spend as little money as possible. As soon as you do that, you're going to be tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. Operate off of data rather than emotion. The sixth reason that companies fail to grow is not learning from the past. And this is basically what I would call sales and marketing amnesia. You tried a bunch of different things, and let's say they didn't work, so you're not doing them now. Well, why didn't they work? If we knew why those things didn't work, then on an additive basis, we could get better over time if we're learning. But if all we're doing is, I tried, it didn't work, and there's no post-mortem analysis of why, we've lost a big opportunity there. So this reason that this point number 6 of not learning from the past, the hidden cost here is that you bring nothing with you into the future as you're trying to refine and learn and grow. And as a result, growth is pretty much left as being a mystery. Seventh reason companies fail to grow is failing to double down. And this is a really interesting one because a lot of people will celebrate a win. So you'll find a lead generation channel that is working. Let's say it's AdWords, for example. And you're excited and your business is growing, and maybe you're looking at now doing some other stuff. You're saying, hey, AdWords is working. Now I have more belief and buy-in into the fact that paid advertising can work. So I'm going to think about doing, all property management or Thumbtack or SEO or whatever it may be. As opposed to saying, it's working, how can I dump as much money as possible into that channel while still getting it to work further? You want to max out the yield when you get something that works, right? You've already paid and done the work for vetting the channel. Now let's maximize ROI, right? If you wrote the song Hotel California, you're not just going to play it once, right? You're going to work the best hits and the greatest hits over and over and over time to get maximal value. Eighth reason companies fail to grow is being unwilling to invest the right resources. And this basically just means you're not willing to commit to put the right butts in the right seats. And I actually want to show you a graphic to illustrate that. This is what we call a 9-box. And the 9-box is basically just a way of kind of viewing what's going on with your business. And in this case, what I'm going to try and do is share my screen so you can actually see an image of it. And perfect. All right, I think you guys can see this now. So forgive me. All right, so this is what a 9-box looks like. It's basically an analysis of the org chart. A traditional org chart is kind of like a tree branch model, which is great. There's value in that. But really what we want to be focused on here is, what is the value that those seats actually represent in your business? When you think about the skill that is required to do the job relative to the value that is actually created, what seat, what chair, what organizational role is actually going to create the most value? And in thinking about that, what it requires you to actually do is prioritize your dollars, prioritize your spend, and realize that while you may have started as a one-man shop, like wealthy, right? Every business starts with one guy, a dollar, and a dream. But the reality is, as you grow, how many roles are you going to shed? How many roles are you going to segment to be able to make sure that you have the right specialist with the right skill set doing the right job at the right time? And looking at it from this type of perspective, you can see that there's differing value, differing seats. Now, you personally may want to reorganize this. Maybe, in your estimation, you would move around some of the slots, you would move around some of the salary, pay cap, whatever it may be. But the point is, it illustrates the point that by willing to say, yes, there is value in the role of a listing agent or a leasing agent or a property manager, that doesn't detract from the fact that as we grow, what we should be doing is trying to build out that specialized role so that we can get somebody that has the highest degree of specialization, particularly, given what we do, particularly in that sales function, and allow a dedicated specialist to be doing that type of work. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kill that and just go back to a video here. We're going to keep moving. So the recap on that was reason number 8, unwilling to invest the right resources. That's why companies fail to grow. Just people are cheap. You don't know your lifetime value. You don't know your CAC, so you default back to operating out of scarcity. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move on to reason number 9, which is failure to brand. And this is a big one. Failure to brand basically just means you view branding as graphics instead of storytelling. You're thinking of it as something you can buy cheaply to do the minimal amount of work to look professional, as opposed to thinking about the identity and the story that you want people to believe about what you do. And we're gonna talk about this in depth in a bit, but the net effect of this is that you feel like you have to compete on price, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Reason number 10 that companies fail to grow is failure to build margin. Now, what I mean here is that instead of viewing additional fees and lines of business, a maintenance company, a title company, a construction company, whatever it may be, instead of viewing those things as additional revenue that you can harvest and effectively eat or consume, if you view those additional lines of revenue as growth fuel, meaning it's not ambiguous what you would do if you could increase your margin, you know that you would funnel that directly back into more growth fuel, more sales, marketing, collateral, resources, assets, manpower, etc. Having that mindset radically improves the efficiency that all of those programs may or may not generate. There cannot be ambiguity as to what you do with extra dollars. Understanding the purpose of capitalizing your business and making sure that it is a virtuous cycle as opposed to a vicious cycle of consumption is really, really important. So those are 10 reasons why companies fail to grow. And now we're going to move on to talking about what a growth machine actually looks like. Before we do that, any questions right now? Questions in chat? Any questions for me right now? If not, I'm moving on. All right, we are moving on. So I'm going to go ahead and share my slides again and pop these bad boys up here. Perfect. All right, so at the end of the day, a growth machine is doing 3 things. It's providing scalability, meaning you may find a new growth channel, a lead gen source, and it allows you to put $1 in and get $10 out. That's great, that's fantastic. But if you can't scale that, if the most that you can put in is $100, then while it may have great ROI, it's also irrelevant because you can't scale it. It's also predictable, meaning it allows you to get off the yo-yo roller coaster of ups and downs of growth and to build a more consistent infrastructure into your business that allows for more consistent growth as opposed to kind of one-hit wonders that are always yo-yoing down. And lastly, it's repeatable, meaning the thing that you did to make one channel work is the same formula and recipe that you're going to be able to leverage to make another growth channel work. A growth machine is fueled effectively by sales, automation, and marketing, and we're going to go into these one by one. And most importantly, a growth machine sees from orbit the big picture that a lot of people never see at all. What we're looking at here is a graphic that's just showing the overall circumstances and manner in which somebody goes from being a stranger to being a customer. They start off with some level of awareness, right? They drove by your business and they saw the storefront. And then the second lowest level of relationship would be a fan, right? You're probably most of us are fans of a couple of different brands on Facebook or something like that. Very low level interaction. A deeper level interaction would be when that business actually gains your email address. And then that is the point when we hopefully begin having some kind of value-added conversations that eventually result in somebody becoming a lead and so forth. And so when we look at this overall picture, this is what a growth machine is taking into account the big picture as opposed to having myopia and just thinking about, okay, I need more leads. If I can just get more leads, I'm going to fix things. So you guys are all familiar with the traditional sales funnel. We have prospects, leads, and customers. And this is the hard reality that we all have to accept. 25% of those leads are going nowhere. There was a joke, the person never should have contacted you. 25% are going to buy from someone in the near term. And 50% are qualified but not currently ready to buy, meaning they're sincere. We shouldn't be calling them tire kickers, but they're not ready to buy today. We all sit in that pool for some sort of a transaction, right? There are items that all of us are thinking about purchasing that we're doing research on, but we don't want to talk to a salesperson yet. And most people in our industry are clubbing each other over the head to fight over this 25%, which is really unproductive. And we're missing out on the bigger opportunity that exists with this 50% that are qualified but not yet ready to buy. Lead nurturing, which you guys have heard me talk about before, this is one of the ways that we actually begin harvesting that some value from that. Lead nurturing is basically just building relationships with potential clients, even if they're not currently ready to buy. So this is the situation where you interact with a brand or a company, and they are willing to invest in the relationship well before they know that you're actually going to put dollars on the table. Some people call that good customer service. Some call it great marketing. The reality is this is basic common sense to treat the people that will buy from you in the future with respect, care, concern, and competency as soon as you can get in touch with them. And so in practice, this is what it looks like specifically with lead nurturing. Somebody visits your website, and instead of them just bouncing because they read your pricing page and there's nothing else for them to do short of contacting you and they're not ready to contact you, you allow them to actually download an ebook where you create value, and in exchange you get their email address, which is effectively permission to continue the relationship. You continue following up, eventually they're ready to buy and they come to you. And so overall, our goal here is to anticipate customer needs, to systematize how you deliver value, and to build a long-term asset that's going to work for your business. Does it work? Of course it says it works. I don't have time to go over all the statistics. Guys, if you'd like, knock yourself out, come back to this slide, which you'll get after the fact, go Google it. Is there a reason that every Fortune 500 company does this? Yes, it's not a coincidence. Most importantly though, it is already happening in your business today. Today, and for the last several years, this has been happening to you guys. Here's a great stat. 60% of the buying cycle is already complete before sales is actually contacted. And this is what it looks like. When somebody in your city Googles, should I hire a property manager? As soon as they do that, they are stone cold qualified as a potential buyer. The question is, will you be anywhere even remotely close to the Google search engine results that are turned up when somebody types a question like, should I hire a property manager? Or what do property managers actually do? Are property managers worthwhile? Pros and cons of hiring a property manager. Guys, are you going to show up? Are you even in the running when somebody types that type of a query? Because what you're thinking is, well, I know if somebody types in Dallas property managers, I know what my rankings are. Hey, that's great. Pat yourself on the back. I'm happy for you. That's a good thing, no doubt about it. But the reality is that is relevant for that 25% of folks that are qualified and ready to buy now. That is not relevant for somebody who's up funnel typing in, should I hire a property manager? And so guys, if you guys have heard this story before, forgive me, I'll go through it quickly. But when I first got started in business, I started a lead gen company in this space. And the very first thing I did was I created a monster guide. This took me about 3 months to write. I still vividly remember sitting at Starbucks, typing away, thinking this is a horrible idea. I've never managed property before. This is incredibly painful. I cannot imagine that this is going to turn out well. Well, it did. I wrote a giant hiring guide, even though I knew nothing about property management, and it ended up generating over 1 million views, and more importantly, 5,000 sales-ready owner leads. And guess what? I got paid on those 5,000 sales-ready leads. I rung the cash register. That's money in the bank, and yet massive failure. Do you know why this project is still a massive failure in my mind? Because I failed to capture email addresses from the large volume of people that were qualified but not yet ready to buy. I got the hot, ready buyers. I missed out on the people that would have been willing to have a conversation, but were ready to have a sales conversation yet. And so because in this case, we're selling those leads, I can put a rock solid figure in it. That's about what it cost me, about $400,000 in lost revenue over a several year period. Guys, that's painful, that stung, but I learned from it. I moved on. My next business, I absolutely created content that was centered around capturing an email address. Now, to illustrate this a little bit further, I want to talk just quickly about a household brand that I'm guessing most of you guys are familiar with. So just by show of chat here, chime in. Has anybody heard of the brand Charmin? What does Charmin sell? Show me in the chat, guys. What does Charmin sell? Boom, TP, code for toilet paper. Yes, a barrage of toilet paper. Yes, that's exactly what they sell. Toilet paper, super sexy industry, right? The paper products industry. I mean, who doesn't get excited about that? Sandy Island says, good TP. Steven says, don't squeeze the Charmin. Okay, so guys, let's get real here. Can you think of a more boring industry than toilet paper? I mean, think about the brand association of what people are using it for, right? This isn't typically something people get the warm fuzzies about, but the truth is there's been massive value that is coming from what Charmin has done. And so I just want to illustrate that. All right, so when we think about the overall brand of Charmin and what they've done, if you think about the history of Charmin, which you probably don't know about, but I'm going to inform you today, in the 1920s, this company was founded as the Hobart Paper Company. And in 1932, they introduced significant innovation by selling the 4-pack, the 4-roll pack of toilet paper. And in the 1940s, they really changed things up by modifying the label on the packaging, still 4 rolls, but they've modified the label on the packaging. In the 1950s, there was actually some very significant innovation when they decided to place a baby on the package. At that time, the company was then sold to Procter & Gamble. In the 60s, Procter & Gamble really stepped things up by putting a larger baby on the package. The baby was then named Mr. Whipple. And Mr. Whipple, the purpose of the baby is to, babies are soft, toilet paper is soft, go figure. In the 1970s, they actually patented an even softer version of Charmin, and the Charmin baby became the best, actually the 3rd best known American, just behind Elvis and Nixon, if I'm remembering that correctly. In the 1980s, even more groundbreaking innovation. Now, unscented Charmin. It just doesn't smell like anything. Wow, crazy. And in the 1990s, they blew it out. They no holds barred, NASA level innovation. Now they're selling the 9-pack. In the 2000s, they're growing further. Things are going great. And I think you probably get the theme of where I'm going with this, guys. At the end of the day, when you ask yourself about the value that this business is creating, is there anybody listening right now that thinks that the reality that this is toilet paper and this is a $3 billion business, is there anybody here that thinks that the difference between toilet paper and a $3 billion business is the softness of the paper product? Because I'll tell you right now, I don't. Tony Chin, she says, baby got real. Guys, what I'm trying to tell you, and what you already hear me saying, is that the difference is a baby on a package. And what is a baby on a package? Ultimately, it comes down to brand, the intangible thing that you can't touch or feel. Slapping a baby on one of your work vehicles, slapping a baby on your business card is probably not going to help your business, but it did help Charmin because they went deep and they made a true brand play of it. And as a result, they are never, from this time until the business goes under and then somebody buys the brand, They will never be in the commodities business any longer. Even though what they sell is a commodity, they are not a commodity because they have built out a brand. And that same opportunity exists for you in every service-based business. The question is, which of us is going to do the investment of actually caring enough to tell a story, which requires having belief, having values, having those intangibles that exist inside of here, and then manifest themselves in how you service your customers. So I just wanted to go over that really quick because it's a huge game-changing aspect of the soft side of business. And if you're not doing it, the best thing that you can do is start doing it. So let's go jump back into our slide deck, and I'm going to go ahead and keep moving here. All right, so how does this impact sales? We're talking about some kind of soft stuff. We're talking about the lead nurturing stuff. We're talking about the brand stuff. How does this impact bottom line money in my pocket? Well, let me tell you. When you think about the overall conversion rate for property managers, it's around 13%. This is a broad cross-section of the industry. We have a lot of data to back this up. 13% is about how efficiently we see property management converting owner leads into owner customers. Now, when you take that number and you actually map it out, we'll just use some examples here, right? So we're just going to take 3 companies. We've got a stone cold closer at the top performance management. We've got above average management that's coming in at a decent 20% close rate. And then we have mediocre management coming in at 10% close rate. And what I want to ask you is, what is the practical impact of your ability to close? Your ability to close is a byproduct of brand, of marketing, of lead nurturing. But when you distill it all down, what is the actual true impact? So if we just take a scenario here, let's say that we're giving you guys, we're handing out leads like candy, and the cost of these leads is $50. And the value of one of these new owner contracts is about $3,000. So these are just my operating assumptions. So if we were to take 100 leads, which represents $5,000 of investment, and hand them off to these 3 companies, what are we going to get on the backside? Well, as you can see, the results are not just different. So the results of what the funnel of these companies generate isn't just different, it is an order of magnitude different. 25K versus 115K. When we talk about overall total customer lifetime output, those are two different universes. And we can see that illustrated here. When we think about the customer acquisition cost and how it relates to conversion rate, the guy on the bottom right, he is paying about $125 for each new contract that he acquires. The guy in the middle with the 20% conversion rate is paying about $250 for each new contract that he acquires. Whereas the guy with the 10% conversion rate, he's paying about $500 per new customer. And honestly, $500 really isn't that bad. There's a lot of clients that we work with that are paying much more than that. Really horrific revenue negative numbers that they're just not even aware of because they don't know their stats. But the point is, your customer acquisition cost is going to be radically impacted by your ability to convert. And more importantly, when you think about the universe of lead generation options that are available, and people ask me all the time, where do I get leads? Where am I going to get the leads from? What do I do? Do I do SEO? Should I do some social media? Should I do pay per lead, pay per click? I'm doing a mailer campaign. What do you think about print, radio, television? Yes, they're all different. Yes, they all work. But the thing that you need to understand is that they exist in a different stratosphere relative to the cost that is going to be associated with working those channels, both immediate and long-term, and the conversion rate that you have to even compete. Because if your conversion rate is weak, you are not even qualified to be dabbling in a number of these mediums. You're simply going to be priced out of the market. So this is the bottom line reality, is that the efficiency with which you market, the quality with which you brand, the degree to which you are effectively building relationship with early prospects will affect your conversion rate. Your conversion rate will impact where you even have the opportunity to spend your marketing dollars. And the winners grow exponentially. This is not a linear thing, right? You take 100 property managers, you put them in a room, and you have them kind of network and exchange business cards. you would have a lot of people walking away with a very sideways understanding of the difference between themselves and their competitors. Whereas if you actually open up the books, you see these two companies look very similar. Their product offering is seemingly similar. To the customer, to the prospective owner, they look similar. But in reality, their actual growth trajectory in terms of long-term velocity could be radically different. So I want to pause to take questions at a couple of different points. Any questions on anything that we have discussed this far, guys? Feel free to ask me. Do you think what I'm saying is true? Does it make sense? Anything you want me to give any clarity on? If not, it's no problem. We can keep moving. And it looks like we're going to keep moving here. All right, so back to focusing our screen. All right, so now we're going to talk specifically about some ways that you can actually begin improving the tightness of your funnel. And we're going to talk about the 5-step lead nurturing game plan. Some of you have heard about some of this stuff before, so I'm going to move through it quick, and then I'm going to camp out on some actual how to kind of stuff, some actual specific examples. But really, our goal here is to map out the buyer journey. When somebody buys from you, they go through a consistent, repeatable process. I want you to understand what that process looks like for your business, and I want you to define it. So the very first step is recognition. They become aware that they have a problem, meaning they get a reassignment notice from their job saying that they need to move because they are being relocated, they're in the military or whatever. So now they're immediately faced with the prospect of selling their home, but it occurs to them, hey, what about renting it? You know, where would I even begin with that? It sounds like a good idea, but I know nothing. So then I need to do research. They graduate into the research phase, they jump on Google, and then they start doing evaluation after the research. They do the research, they get the criteria, and during the evaluation phase, they're basically saying, well, I have some buying criteria. How does option A look compared to option B? And then finally, they actually jump into the purchase phase. And for most of you, that is the very first time that you begin having any interaction with these people. What we want to do is ideally start much earlier. After they purchase, then they're in the review phase, basically saying, was that a good idea? Evaluating the quality of the good or service after the fact. What we want to do is to kind of pair up. We basically want to connect their buying experience, which happens fairly consistently, with an ideal selling experience. And so the way that we do that is we're going to combine what they want and what they're interested in with what you do and what you are competent in, and then combine that with the right timing. If we ignore the right timing, then it's irrelevant, right? You're talking about stuff that in theory they could be interested in, but the timing is off, and so it gets ignored. What we don't want to do is just focus on talking about us, right? A lot of us are talking about me, we, and you end up weeing all over the prospect, blowing the opportunity. People are repulsed and they move on. So what this actually looks like in practice is focusing on creating content that is stage specific. If they're early up in the funnel, we're going to come up with more general educational type stuff, even entertainment based stuff. When they're in the middle of the funnel, now we're talking about how to buying type criteria. When they're later in the funnel, that's when we begin talking specifically about me, my brand. So here are some examples. Early up in the funnel, this ebook is aspirational, the ultimate beginner's guide to real estate investing. That's really open-ended. It's exciting. Maybe you're a young professional. You're thinking about what am I going to be doing over the next 10 years. Very, very generic, very open-ended, but it's opportunity for a brand to create value for somebody early in the process. Then we have mid-funnel content. This is a hiring guide about hiring the right property management company. This is put out by Gordon James. Great company, great brand. If you want to see good branding done in this industry, check them out. And then late funnel. This is straight up just sales collateral. It's a pitch deck. So a couple of caveats here. One is that you really should be building out persona-specific content, meaning within the confines of the people that you're selling to, you're going to have different types of profiles of customers. You should honor and respect that. And ideally, in a perfect world, you're making content for specific types of prospects. But if you can't start there, no worries. Don't even stress about it. Next, you have to give some definition to what the nurturing program actually looks like. And that looks like things like having a defined objective. So you understand at each step in the process, what is the goal that I'm trying to push somebody to do? You need to understand how somebody comes into your funnel and how they leave your funnel. You need to think about the key touch points, which we're going to get into a bit. You also need to think about the timing of those messages, which we'll get into as well. And you also need to think about what are the assets that I need to build out in terms of landing pages, content, email copy. If you can do this, if you can pull this all together, you are going to very effectively pull people from prospect to lead to customer all the way through this buying cycle. You're going to give a stage-specific nudge that allows them to willingly move from one stage to the next. I'm going to skip that and come back to it. You guys are going to get the slides of all of this stuff and more. I actually cut out about half of the slides here just for time constraints here, but we'll come back to that stuff. Next up, we also want to talk about measuring impact. And I'm just going to, oh, interesting. The event is full. Give me 1 second here, guys. I'm going to go back to my video. Right. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to bring on somebody. All right, so when we're talking about some of the metrics that you should be caring about, I want to talk about 6 of those. The first is offer conversion rate. So a offer is effectively the thing that you are using to entice people. A lot of times people will call this a lead magnet. It's a great term. We're going to go over some specific examples. But when you put that offer out there, you got to know, is it working? Is it a quality offer or is it a crap offer? And there's a lot of crap offers out there. Any offer that is thin, self-serving, and something that a prospect feels like they could have gotten on their own by doing a quick Google search, that's going to be of low value. But the way that that is going to be expressed is by their overall offer conversion rate, meaning what percentage of the folks that you end up getting, what percentage of the folks that you end up talking with, got a light going off here, give me 1 sec. What percentage of the prospects that see that offer will actually download it and join your list? And if it's not doing its work, you need to swap it out. So reinvest, try a couple of different offers, see what is effective at getting early stage website visitors to actually give you their email address. And I'm not talking about so that you can call them to initiate a sales conversation. I'm saying so that you can have their email address to send them more value-added content. The other thing that you need to think about is the open rate. So as you're sending out all this email content, what percentage of the emails that you're sending out are actually being read? Again, that's a huge indicator on the quality of the overall content. If nobody's reading the emails that you're sending out, it's junk. You need to improve your game. Same thing with click-through rate. What percentage of the emails that you send out are people actually opening? And then there's the prospect to lead rate. And this is one that a lot of people kind of gloss over. Prospect to lead rate means what percentage of the people that contacted you from a newsletter or from an ebook actually end up becoming leads. What that tells you is your lead nurturing program working? Because the entire purpose of your lead nurturing program is to convert somebody from being an early stage up funnel kind of content consuming interested prospect to a bona fide lead that you're having a sales conversation with. And then we have the meeting rate. What percentage of your leads do you end up meeting with? And then lastly is kind of the boring one that we all know about, which is your conversion rate, meaning what percentage of the leads, the people that are actually ready to have a sales conversation, are you actually closing? And on that lead rate, the only thing I would say is just don't cheat. Make sure that you're actually counting that the right way. A lot of people will effectively be talking about the number of people that they met with, the ratio of the people that they met with to the number of people that actually closed. Your true conversion rate is anybody you had a sales conversation with that actually becomes a qualified prospect. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this in the context of a specific example. And so to do that, I'm going to be bringing on my good friend, Alex Osnenko. Alex, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for a short notice, my friend, but it's always exciting to talk about real numbers.
Yeah, it is. When Alex says short notice, he's talking about 60 seconds. I chatted him a second ago and asked him to jump on. But you know what? That's how we do things because we live and breathe this stuff. And so I know that Alex can perform on short notice. And so, Alex, what I'm going to ask you to do is just to talk briefly about some specific data that you pulled for me. And while I'm queuing it up, Alex, can you just tell me, like, where did you get this data from? Because I'm still impressed you were actually able to pull it. I know it takes some work to actually get this kind of data. Give me some context.
Yeah. So when we sat down and you said, Alex, how long does it take you to earn a client? What is all this content marketing you doing? How is that really working? All these emails you send every week, and most of you guys probably get our educational emails. And Neetu and I, my marketing manager and I, we went on a pretty deep data dig for about 2-3 hours. We just locked in my office, and we just went and just did some data search on between our systems. So MailChimp is one, our CRM is the other, and between the two, we have some real truth that we were able to uncover, and we can see when people initially join our mailing list, what kind of actions they take over time, and how long does it take them to become a customer. And then we have some just basically running numbers over the last 2 years. We got down to pretty definitive data sets. And actually, that made me think about different ways we can continue to build 4.5 in our business. But this should kind of give you an idea how customers buy these days. How do I go to the next slide? All right. So we found this simple stat, which is really, really cool. So if you run any kind of email campaigns, you use MailChimp or GetDrip or any kind of services, you can see all these stats very easily. But over the last 2 years, we've found that our customer open rate, our prospect open rate needs to be at about 44% for them to become customers. So that's a number that we can easily look at all of our emails, right? And then see who's over 44% or near there. And we know that this might be a prospect or somebody who's closer to making a buying decision that we can reach out to. Property managers, it's a very similar thought process. Your customers are going to be the good prospects who are getting ready to talk to you. They're going to be opening your email up often. This is just simple stat.
That's high. I don't want to set an unattainable bar here. I mean, do you feel like what is the range that you would consider acceptable for the folks that are listening right now? Because 44% seems pretty high to me. What's the range that people should be shooting for?
Well, it depends on the quality of your content. So this speaks to the quality of the content we put out. Obviously, we put a lot of thought and effort, and we have a whole content schedule, and it takes forever for us to kind of really figure out the topics and stuff like that. So it depends on the quality of the content. But the simple truth here is look at your email list, look at the open rates. The people with the highest open rates are the best prospects for you to reach out to.
So you're basically saying, screw the averages, just focus on the individuals. And if you have individuals that are prospects that you have not had a sales conversation with, that are repeatedly highly engaged, those are the folks where you can actually selectively focus your energy. I love it. Totally makes sense.
Correct. I mean, your list is truly the asset of the business. I mean, our subscribers list, we've built it over the last 5 years, painstakingly making sure that we deliver only the top quality. There's no sales content in our weekly blogs. I mean, we may have a link out here and there, but everything is focused on education. And that's why, we're looking at these higher open rates and higher engagement rates. But those are the kinds of things you look for. And based on your list, even if your list is only 5 people or 20, it's still great. You can get great information out of your list. And if you continue to grow it, it's just going to snowball. I mean, literally snowball, right? That's how we can predict our forecast our growth is essentially to the growth of our mailing list, because all the numbers, all the averages are kind of consistent. So the click-through ratio for prospects that become customers is 14%, meaning that if, like, say Andy Moore is there in the audience there. If Andy's opening my emails, clicking through my emails more than 14% of the time, that means Andy is getting ready to talk to 4.5 and see if we can help him out. So that's kind of how you decipher that information. So open rate, and this should say click rate, I apologize. Email click rate is 14%, then we know somebody's getting ready to work with us. Now this is kind of eye-popping right here. The average number of days it takes to go from somebody to sign up for our email list to sign a contract with 4.5, it's 221. That's average. So imagine some of the guys take a lot longer, some of the guys take shorter time, but on average, it takes us 221 days to earn our customers' trust through education, through consistent education. Remember, these guys are opening 44% and they're clicking 14%
of
the
emails,
time.
Alex.
It's a lot of work. So 221 days essentially boils down to 31 weeks of emails for us. So it takes 31 weekly emails for a prospect to become a customer. Just because of our industry and the complexity of the marketing solutions and all the other noise out there that just kind of crazy. It takes for a while for us to educate a customer. And I'm a big believer in educating, leading with value. And so should you be. I mean, if you want to, again, build a book of business that is just going to, that's going to give you the predictable growth, as Jordan has this part of the topic. The predictable growth is in your email list. Is in your email list, and also in the quality of the education you put out through your email list. Okay, I'd rather do it less often, but better quality. Focus on doing one video per month. That's fine. If you can do one video, but it actually is, local, honest to goodness, Castro Valley, rental market assessment, and where are we going? That is massive value. And then, from there, you have a pretty clear, way to forecast the business growth. For us, prospect to lead ratio is 12.3%. And, we know that if we grow our list by 100 people, 12 of those people will become a prospect.
Wow.
We'll have a sales inquiry
Wow.
within 221 days. Isn't that crazy? That's kind of crazy. But that is a good conversion. That's quality of education, though. I have to say, not just sending stock content is not going to do it.
So, guys, think about
not going to give that kind of conversion rate.
This goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning. Is this scalable? Is this repeatable? And is this within the scope of things that you could do? Because this is not, NASA doesn't need to come get involved for you to do this. This is a scalable, repeatable growth machine for his business. Alex, this is what they have done, and there's a lot of analogs that we can take away from here. And Alex, I know that you put this stat out here: 4,300% average return on investment for ROI for email marketing, which that sounds a little optimistic. You see stats thrown out all the time, and it's like, what stats can I actually trust? But the reality is, you guys blew it out. You guys blew that stat away.
Yes, but so it's easy to say, okay, and let me just, the number is staggering, but it's easy to say that, look, 4,300% return because, MailChimp costs $20 a month. So that is my end cost. What we've done actually to get this number, we've actually put all the hours for us to create content. We'll put a dollar value on what I pay my marketing manager, when I pay everybody to get involved with the content. So there's actual hours and paychecks involved here. And as long as all the email subscription, all the other tools we have to buy in order to have a proper email campaign. Sorry, and that is 5,700% still. So this is not just against the ROI against the $20 MailChimp fee. This is ROI against a complete cost of doing content marketing and email marketing.
Yeah, that is amazing. So you're basically saying that's the fully burdened cost.
Yep.
That is fantastic. So guys, we're going to keep moving here, but the reason I wanted to cap out on this is I wanted to give you a firsthand example. What I would like to do is to work with more of our clients. But the reality is this is still kind of an aspirational thing. We're helping some people kind of come along with this prospect, but generating those numbers took a lot of hustle on Alex's behalf. So Alex, thank you for stepping up and actually pulling those numbers and practicing what you preach and actually doing this kind of marketing.
Thank you. And they're real. They're as real as they get.
Right.
Took me a while to get them, but yeah.
All right, so guys, we're going to
Jordan.
keep moving here, and we're going to now actually dive into kind of answering the questions. So we have lots of warm, nurtured leads because we did all this lead nurturing, and our prospect to lead ratio is high, so they're coming out the back end. Well, what do we actually do? How are we actually going to go ahead and convert those leads? And so I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen one more time. And all right, so let's talk about some keys to lead conversion once these sales ready leads jump out on the other side. Everything we've talked about is up funnel stuff, but this is stuff that all you guys are already doing, right? At least in the sense that you're already responding to new leads. And the truth is that when we actually look at the stats, this is the average response time that we see across the industry is about 39 hours, meaning that on average, it takes folks about 39 hours to actually respond to a new owner inquiry. And when you see that number, what I'm hoping is that makes you either queasy or you're saying it's not me. But the truth is the numbers don't lie. And while that number seems poor, it's not that dissimilar from many other industries when we take a cross-industry comparison. And part of the way that we know this is that we did a survey on about 3,000 property management companies, and we specifically looked at the first 6 hours in which they responded. And what we found is that only half of the companies that we surveyed even respond within the first 6 hours. And of those, only 1% respond within the first 5 minutes. So if I was to poll you guys right now and say, how many of you respond immediately when you get a new lead? Immediately meaning within the first 5 minutes, a fair number of you would respond. But when we actually did the research on 3,000 property management companies, 1% responded by phone within the first 5 minutes. And I could tell you why that's bad. I could do an hour-and-a-half webinar explaining statistics on why call response time hugely correlates to overall conversion and why you should have a conversion response time focus in your business. But what's the practical reality? The practical reality is this. If you respond within the first 60 seconds, you have the opportunity to generate a wow factor, oh my goodness, no, you just didn't call me back within 30 seconds. If you respond sometime within the first hour, now you're just doing your job. And if you respond sometime after the first 6 hours, well, that doesn't bode well. You're probably just kind of, an assumption of incompetence and a specter of incompetence will loom over all subsequent sales interactions. That is how I personally think about this. When I see that I had a sales inquiry in my email inbox and in Gmail, I see that it came in 0 minutes ago, I start to get giddy because I know that for the next 60 seconds, I have this window of opportunity to wow that prospect. And that's a wow moment that will last throughout the duration of your sales interaction with them. On the other side of this is persistence. And I'm gonna go ahead and just actually make this one a poll. I'm gonna see if you guys are actually even awake here. So if you look down below, you can see that there is a poll. And give me 1 second here. All right, so there's a poll. How many times do you guys call an owner lead that isn't returning your calls? So this is somebody that submitted a sales inquiry, but now they're kind of going dark on you. You can see down, all right, so 3 times, 2 times. Okay, most of you guys are responding at least 3 times before you're giving up on that person. That's what we like to see. But again, when we dive in and we actually do the math, when we surveyed things, what we found was that the stats were pretty abysmal. And specifically what we found is that most folks are responding on average 1.6 times before giving up. And obviously that's a huge problem because business is made over time. Somebody doesn't become a prospect on the first call. In fact, what we do know is that 50% of sales happen after the fifth touch. You have to be persistent. And we can see here in things like this. This is called the contact probability arc, and it shows the correlation between the number of attempts made and the likelihood of actually getting a response. The problem is there's a corresponding less and less likelihood of a sales agent continuing to follow up. And that gap in the middle, that is opportunity. So the third key to converting these now sales ready leads is actually having a good sales process. We don't want your sales process to look like a spin on the wheel of fortune. We want it to actually have weight to it, for it to be substantive and weighty, because the truth is sales comes down to 50% lead quality and 50% sales process. And this is why when I personally hear people complain and bitch about the quality of a given lead source, it is frustrating, because if you were doing that in the context of taking a deep level of ownership over the quality of how you sell, then you have earned the right to complain, examine, scrutinize the quality of the leads that you are receiving and that you are paying for. But if you have not done that, then it is foolish to be talking about, oh, all property management leads, they're garbage, or, oh, I tried AdWords, it didn't work for me. You have no idea if it did or didn't work for you if your sales process is not dialed in. So this is a hardcore reality that all of us need to take to heart and make sure that we're really owning in our business. The truth is, when each step in the sales process is handled correctly, the close is the natural conclusion. It's like gravity, right? It's like turning a glass of water upside down and seeing the water flow out. It's what you would expect when the process is actually well dialed in. We're going to keep moving here, and we're talking about part number 3, which is by far the thing I was most excited about. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty practical examples of how you can actually implement some of this stuff in your business. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is lead magnets. A lead magnet is basically a piece of content that you use to entice and to get somebody to jump into your sales funnel. And I want to give you some specific examples. Here's one. 9 reasons you might not need a property manager. I love this one. Andy Moore, who's in the audience, actually, this is from his company, Gulf Coast. Talk about reverse psychology, right? You're on a property manager's website, and now you're getting a report of 9 reasons you might not need a property manager. Wow, is that counterintuitive? And you know what? It's enough to draw people in and to get that email address. Here's another example, free real estate investor startup kit. Oh, hey, you're thinking about investing in real estate? Great. I actually happen to know all about that, and I would love to lay out a roadmap for how you may get started with investing in real estate and then manage those properties that you end up purchasing. Obviously, there's a form capture on that. Here's another one, free rental price analysis. This is probably the least interesting of the ones that I'm going to show you because you're all familiar with the CMA. But what's different about this one is that they're actually displaying pictures of the report that you're going to get, and that's what makes it 50 times better than most free rental price analysis forms that I see, which have no visual display of what the person is actually going to get by filling out the form. Here's another one, thinking of renting out your home. Here's an introduction to property management. So you're asking questions like, well, do I need a property manager? What do they do? Are they worth the money? At just a fundamental level, what is property management? Boom. This company has an ebook for you to download and read about that subject that they can use to then initiate a value-added dialogue that will eventually turn these people into leads. Another one, choosing a property management company. We looked at that one before. Or look at this one. This is super lightweight, guys. This is a rent-ready checklist. I mean, how long would it take for you to take out pen and pad and create a checklist of things that people should be thinking about in order to prepare their rental unit for rent? Not long. How long would it take it to put it in a PDF, dress it up with some graphics? This is a very lightweight piece of content, but nonetheless, if it generates leads, it works. So you have used all of those offers, all of those pieces of content to grab the email addresses. And now the question is, now that we have the email addresses, how are we going to turn those email addresses into people that we have, you know, just not much of a relationship with, to raving fans that are ready to do business with us? And the way that we're going to do that is by focusing on 6 key campaigns. 6 key email campaigns that can make a huge difference in your business. This is the welcome campaign, the educate campaign, the why us campaign, the close campaign, the onboard campaign, and the retain campaign. Now, these campaigns all have a number of emails that are associated with them. But the thing that I want you guys to be thinking about is this is a structured format that answers the question, what emails do I send out and in what order? This is it, guys. These are the campaigns that if you fill in the content, it's not rocket science. I'm not about to show you a bunch of emails that are written by PhDs. But if you can fill in the blanks with these specific campaigns in sequence, one after the other, this is how you pull somebody down funnel using lead nurturing. The first is the welcome campaign. And the welcome campaign is a couple of emails that are doing, first off, just saying hello, basically saying, hey, I got your message, and I just want to tell you I care, and I am happy that you joined my email list, and I want to tell you what you're going to get as a result of being on my email list. The second email in the welcome campaign is introducing brand values. This is basically establishing, I am the CEO, the leader of this company. We have a mission and a purpose, and I want to share it with you right now so that as you get every subsequent email, you understand the vision and the context in which we want to interact with you as a company and a brand. And the third email in the welcome campaign is a premium content offer. This is basically a best of, you know, greatest hits. Alex was talking about what emails, you know, what blogs or what content do you do? Well, maybe you've done some content marketing. Maybe you have 10 or 15 blogs and they're kind of hodgepodge. They're just kind of out there and you're happy about it. But the truth is, if you took the time to go into Google Analytics, it would be clear which of those was the most popular blog posts. Take those, the key ones that have gotten the most traffic so far, and lead off with that valuable content. As soon as you do that, again, you're setting the tone for all future subsequent emails. Here's another example of a property management company out of Australia doing that. The second campaign is the education campaign. And the education campaign is where we begin to really peel back that onion of delivering value. And I'm going to show you some examples, but this is the main thing that I want you to understand about an education campaign and educational content in general. And that is, it's very, very easy to do. The bar is very, very low. The basic formula is they ask, you answer. You already get asked a lot of questions about your business, what you do, your service offering. Take those questions and use that as the formula for the content that you create. And if you are doing nothing more in your education campaign than taking the time to have a really excellent answer to the basic questions you get asked, then there you go. You got a slam dunk. Now, if you want to reach for a higher bar, if you want to refine your email copy, if you want to have an email, if you want to have an ebook that people could download, a PDF, a resource, a checklist, even better. But if you're just doing this, if it's just an article summary, this is a weekly article roundup of articles that other people wrote. I mean, tell me that that's not efficient. Tell me that you don't have the time to find a couple of other interesting articles that your prospects may find interesting and queue that up as a weekly article roundup. Cheap, low effort content, guys. Another thing in the education campaign to consider is events and seminars. Now, I'm going to talk about this in a tiered structure. At the highest level is a in-person event, right? This is people in your town, either in your office or find a facility you can rent out, do a full day of seminars, find other local professionals, CPAs, lawyers, title company, mortgage professional, whatever. Find other domain experts that can speak to the opportunities that exist in real estate investment and wrap it up, package it up, bring people to the event, give them some nice food, pitch your services in the process because that's part of what you do. And there you go. You have a great, all-inspiring event that most people are not doing. But you're saying, you know what, it sounds like a high bar. I'm not sure I can do it. I'd like to do that, but I'm not ready right now. Fine. No worries. I get it. Then do what we're doing right now. Do a online seminar, aka a webinar. The bar for what we are doing is very low. I'm sitting in my office. There's a camera attached to my laptop, and I'm talking to you about things that I have a deep understanding of. And you similarly have things that you have a deep understanding of. So if you can't do in person, do an online seminar. If you can't do that, guys, if you are so time broke that you don't have time to sit in front of a computer screen to talk to qualified prospects, then God help you when it comes to sales and marketing. But if that is, you know, the excuse that you want to throw my way, then great. Remove the slides and do a teleseminar. So there's not even any internet involved. This is a great example from a company called PPR. They specialize in note investing, and they do either a monthly or a weekly teleseminar where they get people on the phone and they talk shop, jaw jack. It's interactive. They let prospects interact. So the point is, when you are in that education campaign, there are a bunch of options available to you. Leverage them. Now, once you have done your job in that education campaign, now we're going to try and pull somebody into the next phase, right? When they're in the welcome campaign, no matter what, they're getting forced into the education campaign. Once they're in the education campaign, now you want them to self-qualify by opening your emails and clicking on your emails. And by doing that, that is how they are self-qualifying to push themselves into the next campaign. The next campaign is the Why Us campaign, which is more sales-oriented. But you're going to get them to graduate out of that education campaign by, at the end of it, sending them a soft sell. A soft sell is not, hey, would you like to buy from me right now? A soft sell is, hey, you know what? I sent you a bunch of great content and resources. I've established credibility, domain expertise. Would you be interested in now finding out what your property could rent for by getting a free rental analysis from a clearly qualified professional? A lot of you guys already offer a free rental analysis, but the question is, do you offer it at the right time, in the right context, after you have sufficiently educated somebody? Once you send that out, then hopefully they're going to take you up on that, and they're going to graduate to the Why Us campaign. The Why Us campaign is where you begin talking about what is different about your company, differentiating your offering, right? Put yourself in the shoes of the prospect. Go to your website, go to your competitor's website, bring some strangers if necessary to give you some perspective. And this is a really hard thing to do, to be objective about your brand and your company, your competition. But if you're really honest, if you put yourself in the shoes of the prospect, is it clear from a non-educated consumer perspective how you are truly different in a value-added sense versus your competitors? And if the answer is no, then do yourself a favor and figure out what you need to do to put yourself in that position of differentiation, to be able to get out of the commodity rat race and to really be a value-added player in your market. Now, here's one example. This is a company called OneRent, really fascinating company. They're actually a venture-backed, technology-first property management company. And as you can expect, they actually have some pretty awesome sales marketing collateral. And so they're leading off with some numbers front and center, right? Most companies don't have this. They do. They have the numbers to tell you that it takes 230, they have 236 properties leased in the last 60 days, 210 showings done in the last 7 days, and 43 mobile managers near you. I don't even know what that means. But the point is, they're getting specific. And so it's much harder to kind of blend in when you're actually using real numbers and data. Another thing that they're doing in their Why Us campaign is using case studies. A case study is a much beefier version of a testimonial because it really gets specific and it explains how a prospect can go from point A to point B with your business as a customer. And then finally, we have the soft sell in the YS campaign. And this is basically communicating how eventually that person in the YS campaign gets pulled into a sales conversation. And that is that at the end of this campaign, we're straight up asking them if they are ready to schedule a sales consultation. Now, notice that they're calling it, the verbiage that they're using is schedule, meaning at your leisure, free, meaning no cost to you, and consultation, meaning not a sales pitch. Language matters, copy matters. They've nailed it. The graphics are right. Everything about this email, particularly in the context of the previous ones that already got sent out, screams that this is a quality, legit operation. And yes, at this point, if I've gotten this far, I should probably contact them to have a value-added consultation. Now, once I actually do that, now I'm sales ready. I'm having a sales conversation, and this is where so many of us begin. But if you've already done the legwork, by the time you get here, you have a red, piping hot, buttery smooth lead that is just waiting to convert, and your sales process is going to be like a knife through butter if you have done the previous legwork. But regardless, when you get here, you don't let up. You don't take it for granted. You don't say, now I have a sales prospect, they're going to convert, here's the contract signed. No, you keep going deep. In that conversion campaign, you explain your service offering. You get detailed about the boring minutia that most people stuff at the bottom of a contract or on a white and black piece of paperwork, or that they never talk about at all. You get specific about your service offering. You get specific about why somebody should work with you. Now you start the the wee process. Here's a great example of that. GK Houses, based out of Nashville. They do an annual owner happiness survey. Guys, that is nuts. Who does that in this industry? They basically surveyed their existing client base, they got the data back, and then they dressed it up in the context of an infographic. Hats off to Matt and the other guys at GK. This is some baller content. And when you as a consumer interact with something like this, you have established indisputably that this is not the sort of thing that any company in the marketplace could easily put out there. There's clearly substance and weight behind this, and it's very, very believable. So what I want you guys to be thinking about as you're looking about this is, how can I incorporate something like this? You don't necessarily have to hit that same bar, but you need to use this as inspiration, not to rip off, but to be inspired and thinking about how you can be improving your own process. So the other thing to think about is the pre-appointment process. The pre-appointment is basically a situation you find yourself in when you have scheduled a meeting, and now the meeting is going to happen in a couple days, and now you want to be thinking about, how can I make sure that not only does that person show up to the meeting, an appointment reminder is great, but furthermore, how can I make sure that when I sit down in that appointment, they are as qualified and educated as they could possibly be, so that A, if they're not qualified, we don't have the meeting. B, when we actually do have the meeting, they're asking educated questions that really get to the nut of whatever their concerns are, and we can deal with true value-added concerns as opposed to just basic entry-level type questions. After that is done, after the pre-appointment campaign, I recommend sending out a post-appointment email, and then finally we get to the one that's actually pretty interesting, which is discounts and offers. And discounts or offers are just that. This is where basically where you're giving away $1 to make $1. But a lot of folks lead up with this, right? We talk to folks all the time that are basically saying, well, in my market, a big box competitor just came in, so now it's all about price. Or I tried APM, with those leads, it's all about price. Hey guys, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you choose to lead out with price, everything else will be about price afterwards, because the implicit thing that you are communicating is that there is nothing else to talk about other than price, because you are a commodity. Contrast that versus what is being done here. This is a discount and an offer that is being offered on week 6 after a sales conversation. So we had a sales conversation. I'm doing the in-person follow-up, I'm picking up the phone, I'm sending out one-off emails, but for better or for worse, that prospect failed to convert. So now, as a added bonus to bring somebody back in the funnel, to reinvigorate the conversation, now that is the appropriate time to use a discount offer. And if that one doesn't work, what this company in particular is doing, now they're graduating it, right? They're stepping it up a notch. Well, 2 weeks later, if the first offer of $150 off tenant placement didn't work, boom, now they're going to up it to not only $150 off, but also 2 months free management. If that doesn't work, they're going to come back 2 weeks later with the same offer, all trying to push people over the edge when the deal hit a hold. And finally, after you've done all of that, you've actually closed somebody, finally campaign number 5, which is the onboarding campaign. And the key with the onboarding campaign is to set realistic customer expectations and then to not just meet them, but to blow them away. The way that we do that, first off, is with a thank you gift, right? So you guys have probably at least once in your life had an experience where you purchased something that was not a huge purchase. It wasn't a home buy or a car, but for whatever reason, the vendor that you bought stuff from, like for me, this would be protein powder from a GNC. The rep took time to write a thank you note based on that $50 purchase. And that left a massive impression because it shows the human connection in an uncommon medium. In an era when people no longer communicate personally one-to-one via snail mail, it's all phone, email, or text, or chat. In an era like that, this sort of stuff goes a long ways. And if you don't have the time to handwrite a letter, well, great, so be it. Use a service like MailLift and have it done automatically on your behalf. This letter that you're seeing was programmatically generated based on copy that was copied and pasted. MailLift, there's a bunch of other services you can use. As a part of this onboarding campaign, you can also set expectations, explain the process. What can they expect as a part of becoming a customer? How can they maximize value in their relationship with you? And then finally, the retention campaign. The retention campaign is the long-term thing that you should be doing with customers, where you're basically asking the question, are you happy, and how can I make you happier? A Net Promoter Score is a great way to do that. You can Google Net Promoter Score. It's basically a framework that people will use to be able to assess the median level of contentment of their customers. In terms of the customer-facing email, it's very simple. Pick a number. That's it. What you get from that, though, is the ability to not only understand on average what is the customer's satisfaction level. Is it going up? Is it going down? But you can also cherry pick your least satisfied and your most satisfied customers to either troubleshoot problems before they cancel, or to talk to the people that are really happy and to solicit a review request, which should absolutely be hard baked into your process. Additionally, you should also celebrate your customers on an annual basis. I couldn't find an email that was property management specific, but I found emails from Facebook and Twitter, which are lightweight. I mean, this is not a game changer for Facebook or Twitter, but it's nice, it's kind, and showing care and kindness is always going to be a bedrock of customer service. So a couple other things that I want to talk about, and I'm just going to transition out of these slides and do the rest of these verbally here. A couple other things that I just want to talk about. The first thing is that content and marketing automation are joined at the hip. So when you think about how can you implement this in your business, clearly there's a lot of content to be written, there's a lot of content to be drafted, but don't let that deter you. Start small and then build. Look at the 6 campaigns that we outlined. Start with the first one and move deeper in the funnel, or go vice versa. You're gonna get these slides after the deck if you're watching right now, or if you registered. And wherever you can start is the place that you should start. But you have to understand that you are gonna have to invest in content. And so one of the ways that you can do that efficiently is by recycling content. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say that you decide you want to write an ebook. The ebook is the definitive guide to hiring a property manager. Hey, that's a fantastic idea and you should do it. But if you go through the effort to generate that ebook, or if you pay somebody else to write that ebook on your behalf, you can't afford to have that content just sitting idly. You should then convert it into a white paper, of how to calculate the ROI of hiring a property manager, or repurpose the content in a webinar, how to interview and hire a great property manager, or a cheat sheet, 10 questions to ask a property manager before hiring, or a podcast or a blog post. Guys, the content that you generate in one place can be repurposed, augmented, and slightly expanded, and then repurposed over and over and over again. Not only is it a good idea, it's essential for this to be a cost-effective way for you to actually generate effective marketing results. So content recycling is huge. But big picture, the thing that I am most excited about is for you to be able to ask the question, long-term, when it comes to sales and marketing, do I want to rent or own? You guys are all familiar with that question, rent or own. You know, how do you address that question with prospects currently? Well, I'm thinking about renting or owning. You know, hey, you're in the business. You know, what do you think? Well, you have an explanation, right? You guys could talk people through that. Well, I want to talk you through the very same thing as it pertains to your business. Renting is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with renting. Renting represents you spending money on a pay-per-lead solution or AdWords. That is the quickest way for you to start generating leads. And so you should absolutely start there. Everybody should start there. I recommend starting with either AdWords, probably with AdWords, but also pay-per-lead solutions are fantastic as well. But overall, in the long haul, when you think about the business that you want to build in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, 10 years from now, you and I both know that you want to be in a position of owning your destiny and owning your future. And that does not look like paying a bill to Google each month or paying a bill to All Property Management each month and knowing that as soon as you stop paying that bill, you're going to get evicted when it comes to sales and marketing. No, we both know that you want to own your destiny. And the way that you do that is by building the assets, the channels, the traffic, the audience, and the list that you can control, where you can go directly to those consumers and you can know that you have a brand asset that is the gift that will keep on giving. It's not cheap to build, but it's a cost that is amortized over the lifetime of your business. And everything that we have talked about today represents an opportunity for you to begin making that key investment in the long-term future of your growth and of your business. So, whew, guys, I need a bigger cup of water here. I'm tuckered out, but that's what I had for you today. I had more content. Believe it or not, in Maui, when I gave this talk, it was like way more content than this. I cut like half of my deck for this webinar just because it was exhausting. But nonetheless, you are going to get the entire 240-page slide deck after this. But right now, what I want to know is, do you have questions for me? Is this practical? Could you do this in your business? Is there anything that you're taking away from right now that you think you could actually apply in your business? And what questions might you have? If you have questions, throw them in the chat box or throw them in the question box down below, preferably in the question area down below. We have one question from David, and David asks, how do we get qualified leads? So David, great question on where do you get qualified leads. There's a million places I could put out a list. Pay-per-lead, Thumbtack, All Property Management, Manage My Property. None of those are exclusive sources, but they all work. And in terms of paid advertising, you have AdWords. In terms of organic, you could do social media or SEO. I mean, it's not rocket science. You can do some basic Googling here. The bigger question than where do you get leads from is how do you actually convert those leads? With 5 minutes of Google searching, you should be able to find at least 3 or 4 places you can start generating a decent volume of leads a week from now. The bigger question you need to be asking is, will those channels scale? And specifically, that means, can I get enough leads from them? And can I efficiently close those leads? Because if you cannot convert those leads, you cannot afford to buy leads from those channels. So that's the question is, how am I going to nurture and convert any leads that I get from anywhere into buyers? And as soon as you start doing that, then you're going to find more lead sources and they're going to pay off. All right, great question. All right, any other questions, guys, from the audience Anything that you're thinking about implementing? Question for you guys: is there anything we talked about today that you think you could effectively implement in your business within the next quarter, the next 30 days? Between now and the end of the year, is there anything that you guys that we've talked about that you feel like you could effectively implement in your business? Hit me up in the chat. All right, we got Alex saying email list. Nathan Gilliam saying the nurturing campaign content. Okay, that's a tall drink of water, but yeah, you're right. It's a lot of work, but it's absolutely something you can do. And I would be remiss without saying, if you're intimidated by this, guys, if you're staring at this and thinking like, wow, this is just my mind is blown, I don't know how to implement, there are options. Email me after the fact. I can refer you out to vendors that can help you draft all of that content. And guys like Alex, who was just up here on the webinar, they actually have a lead nurturing program that actually will help you generate and get that content actually dialed in, so you don't have to worry about creating it. So there are solutions out there. If it's intimidating, work with another vendor that specializes in doing this type of stuff. Guys, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. I do want you to know that we are going to be starting a 3-part series on sales fundamentals for property managers starting tomorrow. So check your email inbox. You'll be getting a video from me. There's a couple more coming. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to attend today. I hope this was something that was of value to you. I really enjoyed having the time to be able to just kind of talk about the stuff that is my bread and butter. I wish you great business success. We will see you guys soon. Check your email inbox tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great week, guys.